Hey, thank you for watching my video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll post more. Please subscribe and thank you for watching my videos.
Donald Trump promises to unwind President Obama's governance with the stroke of his presidential pen and the support of a GOP-controlled Congress. He can make good on those promises, but he will need to weather pushback from foes among the legislative branch, the courts, and voters and beneficiaries of Obama-era policies, plus world leaders who are wary of Trump's worldview. Waiting in the wings are advocates for progressive policies that were initiated over the last 8 years. Eyeing some of the cabinet appointees Trump has named, they expect changes that will run counter to the president-elect's repeated vows during the campaign to support working people and their economic needs. We are well positioned to immediately bring transparency around what's being done and to demand accountability of the Trump administration and to bring forth the implications for everyday Americans, said Carmela Martin, Executive Vice President for Policy at the left-leaning Center for American Progress. He will have to answer for the hypocrisy based on his campaign proposals, she said, if Trump and his agencies appear to be siding with wealthy Americans and big businesses and industries as opposed to working-class voters who elected him. There will be political consequences when he does that. Trump's determination to tap his executive authority next year in all its many forms will demand sharp legal advice and patience. Some regulatory reversals he has in mind, for instance, are predicted to take 2 or more years to accomplish. Other Obama policies will be easier to erase. The Congressional Research Service recently provided Congress with a short roadmap describing the least permanent executive actions of Obama's tenure, executive orders, and department and agency directives and guidance, as well as the pending and even final rules that would take longer to jettison under provisions of the law. In thinking about his prospective use of executive heft, Trump credited Obama with some of the how-tos. He's led the way, to be honest with you, Trump said of Obama when asked earlier this year if he'd govern through executive orders if elected president. I won't refuse it. I'm going to do a lot of things, he said in an NBC News interview. Trump's overall rebuke of the 44th president, who for more than 6 years was pummeled by conservatives for what they argued was his unconstitutional interpretation of presidential authority, hinged on impact, not legality. Trump argued he would emulate Obama's techniques, but said he would take aim at the right things. I'm going to use them executive orders much better, and they're going to serve a much better purpose than he's done, he said. As experts have pointed out, Obama was a reluctant pupil while learning to advance his executive agenda while Congress balked on the sidelines. His tools went beyond executive orders, which are numbered, published in the Federal Register, and can be revoked by a new president in a heartbeat. Trump has pledged to sign a flurry of EO policy reversals in January, as his predecessors did following changes of party control in years past. In his final weeks in office, Obama is working to mitigate the impacts of the sea change his party expects. On Tuesday, he flew to the U.S. Central Command in Tampa to deliver a final speech and unveil a report explaining the legal underpinnings for U.S. counterterrorism policies. Also on Tuesday, Trump set out to introduce retired James Mattis, his defense secretary-designate, at a rally in North Carolina, his first such effort to spotlight a cabinet pick in person during a public event. Obama believes some of Trump's expressed boasts to undo existing initiatives are open to revision. The president-elect, for example, supported waterboarding during the campaign, a practice Obama and Congress banned as torture. Mattis disagreed with Trump about the utility of harsh interrogation techniques, an opinion the incoming commander-in-chief said surprised him during their recent discussions. Trump also said during the campaign that he would consider targeting relatives of terror suspects. On waterboarding and the legal protocols established for drone strikes against terror suspects, Obama believes Trump will inevitably be influenced by the weight of the office and the strictures of law, by U.S. partners abroad, and by what the president described as Trump's pragmatic bent. Obama alluded to those hopes during his Florida speech, in which he defended his decisions and his record as commander-in-chief. No foreign terrorist organization has successfully planned and executed an attack on our homeland, and it's not because they didn't try. Plots have been disrupted, terrorists have been taken off the battlefield, Obama told the military audience at MacDill Air Force Base. We've respected the rule of law. We've enlisted our values in this fight. That fact, Obama said, is not of U.S. weakness, but our greatest strength. In this November 10, 2016 file photo, President Barack Obama meets with President-elect Donald Trump in the Oval Office of the White House in Washington. President Barack Obama took on America's problems of a lack of access to health care and high cost, but he and the Democrats paid a political price. Now President-elect Donald Trump has promised to undo much of what Obama put in place, while vowing to make the system better for average folks. AP photo Pablo Martinez Monserrat. Filing is November 10, 2016 file photo. And prosecutorial discretion at the Justice Department for recreational and medical which was estimated to be Obama searching for